Picture this scenario. You're sitting in your car in the parking garage at work. Maybe it's a Tuesday, maybe it's raining, and you pull out your phone and open your investment account. You've been watching it for months, sometimes refreshing it 3 times a day just to see if the number has moved. And then one morning, there it is, 6 figures. A comma in a place it has never been before. Your first $100,000. You screenshot it, you cry a little, or maybe a lot. You text your best friend who actually understands what this took, the one who listened to you calculate savings rates at brunch for 2 years. You think about every meal you didn't go out for, every vacation you talked yourself out of, every time you moved money to savings instead of clicking add to cart. And for a moment, you feel like you've cracked the code, like you finally made it, like the hard part is over. But here's what nobody tells you about that moment. The financial journey doesn't get easier after $100,000. In some ways, it gets more complicated because everything about how you relate to money, what you're supposed to do with it, how other people treat you because of it, and what temptations come looking for you once you have it, all of that shifts in ways that most financial content on the internet completely ignores. And if you're a woman who just crossed this milestone, the things they're not telling you could cost you everything you worked for. My name is Felicia, and I built my wealth by refusing to accept the version of personal finance that was designed without me in mind. If you want the truth about money, not the Instagram version, not the version that assumes you started with a trust fund and a 6-figure salary right out of college, make sure you hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. If you're ready to hear what they actually don't tell you about your first $100K, let me start here, because I need you to understand the magnitude of what you've accomplished before I tell you everything that's about to come for you. The first $100,000 is not just a milestone. It is, mathematically, the hardest money you will ever build. According to investment research from 4-Pillar Freedom, if you're saving $10,000 a year at a 7% annual return, it will take you nearly 8 years to accumulate your first $100,000. But here's the wild part. Your next $100,000 takes only about 5 years. After that, each successive $100,000 takes less and less time. Once you're sitting at $500,000, you could potentially add another $100,000 from market returns alone in just about a year without adding a single additional dollar of your own savings. That is the mechanics of compound growth, and the late Charlie Munger, vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway and one of the greatest investors in history, understood it so viscerally that he once told a room full of investors that the first $100,000 is incredibly difficult, but you have to do it by any means necessary. Walk everywhere and eat nothing that wasn't bought with a coupon if you have to, was the spirit of his advice, because that first $100,000 is what flips the switch. It's when your money starts making meaningful money without your active participation. Before $100,000, you are doing almost all of the work yourself. Every dollar in that account is a dollar you saved, a dollar you chose not to spend. After $100,000, the math starts helping you in a way that builds and builds until it becomes unstoppable. But here's what Charlie Munger's famous advice assumes: that you have a straight, uninterrupted, well-compensated career path. And y'all, let me be real with you for a second. That assumption is doing a lot of heavy lifting when it gets applied to women. According to research from Morgan Stanley, women retire with about 32% less savings than men. Not a little less, 32% less. And it is not because women aren't working hard or don't care about money. It's because the system was designed around a financial life that most women don't actually live. We take career breaks for caregiving. We experience the motherhood penalty in our earnings. We face a gender pay gap that for Black women specifically means earning about 67 cents for every dollar earned by a white man. Every dollar that gap costs you isn't just gone from your paycheck, it's gone from your investments, your compound growth, your retirement account, your ability to build wealth at the rate the math promises you. If only you could contribute as much as the advice assumes you can. According to a 2024 survey by Empower, 37% of Americans would struggle to cover an unexpected $400 expense, and that number is significantly worse for women living alone and women of color. So the road to $100,000 starts harder and runs longer for most of us. So when you hit $100,000 as a woman, I need you to understand you did something extraordinary. You did it against structural headwinds that most of the men posting about hitting their first $100K simply did not face, which is exactly why I'm about to tell you what they are not putting in their videos about what comes next, because you didn't come this far to squander the momentum now. Here's the first thing they don't tell you. The celebration trap is real, and it will come looking for you with your own credit card and your own very justified sense of deserving good things. This is the moment when a lot of people, especially women, especially Black women who have been told their whole lives that they deserve to enjoy the fruits of their hard work, upgrade everything at once. The apartment that felt fine last year suddenly feels too small. The car that got you here suddenly seems beneath the version of yourself that has 6 figures in an investment account. The wardrobe needs updating. The vacations get booked. The dinners out become a new baseline instead of a special occasion. And every single one of these decisions feels completely reasonable because you've been telling yourself, when I have money, I'll do this for so long that having money and finally doing the things feels like alignment. Behavioral economists have a name for what's happening in your brain during this period. It's called hedonic adaptation, sometimes called the hedonic treadmill. Here's how it works. Every time you upgrade your life, you get a temporary burst of happiness. Your brain lights up, you feel good, the new apartment or the new car delivers exactly the satisfaction you hoped for about 4 to 6 months. And then it becomes your new normal. The thing that was supposed to make you feel like you'd arrived becomes just the floor of what you expect. The excitement fades. The shine wears off. And so you need the next upgrade to feel that same satisfaction again. Meanwhile, the expenses you've locked in, the higher rent, the car payment, the memberships and subscriptions that come with a more expensive lifestyle, those don't disappear when the happiness wears off. They just become permanent drains on the money you could be growing. This is what personal finance researchers call lifestyle inflation, and it is the single most common reason people who earn good money and even build their first $100,000 never make it much further. A $500 monthly increase to your spending doesn't just cost you $6,000 a year. It costs you the compound growth that money would have generated over the next 20 or 30 years. At an 8% average annual return, that $500 a month you're adding to your lifestyle expenses instead of investing represents nearly $680,000 in foregone wealth over 30 years. I need you to feel that number, $680,000. Gone. Not because you did anything wrong on the investment side, just because the lifestyle upgrade became permanent instead of the celebration being a one-time event. Now, I am absolutely not telling you that you can't celebrate your milestone. You should. This is a big deal, and you earned it. But here is the distinction that matters. A one-time celebration is very different from a permanent lifestyle upgrade. Treat yourself to an extraordinary dinner, book the trip you've been putting off, buy the item you've been eyeing for 2 years. And then, and this is the part they leave out, go right back to living at or below your previous spending level while routing the bulk of your growing financial capacity into investments. The celebration trap is spending like you've arrived when you've actually just built the launch pad. The ones who get wealthy don't celebrate by building a bigger lifestyle. They celebrate briefly and then protect the engine. Now let's talk about what I call the social tax that comes with your first $100,000, because nobody prepares you for how your relationships change when you have money, and the people around you know it or suspect it. This is particularly layered for Black women, for women who grew up working class, for women who are the first in their families to build this kind of wealth. Because suddenly you become the person people call. Maybe it starts subtly, a family member who needs help with a bill, a friend who assumes you'll pick up the tab because you can afford it now, an expectation that your financial stability is actually a community resource that everyone has a claim on, not because they're bad people, but because in many communities, particularly communities of color, the person who makes it is supposed to take care of the people who didn't. Or it might be less subtle, direct asks, guilt trips about your choices, pressure to share before you've actually secured yourself. According to a Goldman Sachs survey released in 2024, focused on Black women and wealth building, debt was among the most frequently cited challenges for Black women pursuing generational wealth. And one of the biggest contributors to that debt, informal financial support for family members, what researchers and community members sometimes call the Black tax, where first-generation wealth builders end up supporting not just themselves, but multiple households, sometimes before they've adequately funded their own retirement accounts or emergency savings. I want to be really careful here because I am not saying that generosity is wrong. I am not saying that caring for your community is a mistake. I am not saying you should abandon your family members who are struggling, but here is what I am saying. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot build generational wealth while constantly redistributing it before it has time to compound. There is a very real difference between sustainable generosity and financial martyrdom. And the people benefiting from your financial martyrdom, the ones who call every time there's a crisis, who expect you to come through without ever asking if coming through is going to set you back, are not going to be the ones taking care of you when you're 70 and you didn't build the retirement account you needed because you were funding everyone else's immediate needs. The payoff here requires a hard conversation with yourself first, and then with the people in your life about what you can sustainably give versus what is being expected of you. Setting boundaries around money is not being selfish. It is being strategic, and it is being kind to your future self. Creating a giving budget, a specific predetermined amount that you allocate to helping family and community, treated just like any other fixed expense, and then holding firm to that limit, protects your wealth-building trajectory while still allowing you to show up for the people you love. You get to be both generous and strategic. Those are not competing values. But you have to decide on the boundary before the phone rings, not while you're on the call feeling guilty. Here's something else they won't tell you about your first $100,000. It can make you overconfident in the wrong things and underconfident in the right things, often at the same time. And this is the psychological trap that derails a lot of wealth-building journeys right at the point when they should be accelerating. Because once you hit that milestone, something genuinely shifts in how you see yourself. You start thinking, I figured out investing. I understand how money works now. I can take bigger swings. I can find the thing that makes $100K into $500K faster than the boring index fund approach. And right on cue, the universe sends you someone with a bigger swing for you to take. Maybe it's a real estate opportunity that a coworker who seems successful is excited about. Maybe it's a startup investment that a friend of a friend is pitching at happy hour. Maybe it's options trading or crypto or some investment vehicle that promises to compress a decade of growth into 2 years. And suddenly the discipline and patience and strategic boredom that built your $100,000 feels less exciting than it used to. Because you understand enough about investing to be somewhat dangerous, but not quite enough to recognize all the ways things can go catastrophically wrong. Y'all, this is the part that genuinely made me mad when I learned about it. Because this pattern has a name in behavioral finance, it's related to what psychologists call the Dunning-Kruger effect. The tendency for people who have developed some competence in a field to overestimate their overall expertise. In investing specifically, the research is sobering. Studies consistently show that individual investors who try to beat the market through stock selection and market timing almost always underperform a simple, low-cost index fund over the long term. And the more confident they are, the worse the outcomes tend to be. The overconfident amateur reaches for complexity right at the moment when compound growth was about to do the heavy lifting. And the price isn't just the investment loss, it's everything that investment would have grown into over the next 20 years. Here is the math on why staying boring is actually the aggressive high-performance strategy. According to the rule of 72, a simple formula where you divide 72 by your expected annual return to find how many years it takes to double your money, at an 8% average annual return, your $100,000 doubles in roughly 9 years to $200,000. In 18 years, that becomes $400,000. In 27 years, $800,000, all without you managing it, timing it, or making a single sophisticated decision. Now take that same $100,000 and put it in a complicated investment that goes wrong. A bad real estate deal, a startup that fails, a crypto position you didn't fully understand. Now your $100,000 is $40,000 or nothing. And you haven't just lost the money. You've lost the compounding that money would have generated for the next 3 decades. You've paid what I call the complexity premium, the cost that overconfidence in your own sophistication extracts from your future net worth. The payoff is this. The first $100,000 should make you more committed to the fundamentals, not less. Max out your tax advantage accounts, your 401k to at least the employer match, your Roth IRA, your HSA if you're eligible. Keep automating so investments happen before you can think about spending the money. Keep the core of your portfolio in diversified, low-cost index funds. And be deeply, almost aggressively skeptical of any investment that promises significantly above-market returns, because every single person pitching you that investment is looking for someone on the other side of that trade. Now, here's the part of this conversation that I need you to really sit with, because I think it's the most important and the least discussed dimension of hitting your first $100,000 milestone. What actually changes after you get there is not just the math. It is you. It is your identity. It is the way you understand yourself in relation to money and wealth. And if you're a woman, especially a woman who grew up without financial privilege, a woman who spent years feeling like real wealth was something that happened to other kinds of people, that identity shift is both the most powerful thing about this milestone and the most fragile. According to a 2024 survey from the Bankrate Women in Investing study, 48% of female investors said their single biggest regret was not investing sooner. Not that they made the wrong investment, not that they chose the wrong account type, that they waited too long to even start. And one of the primary reasons women wait, according to researchers at SoFi, is that women tend to believe they don't know enough yet, that they need to learn more, understand more, be more prepared before they're ready to invest seriously. Meanwhile, the men around them are opening brokerage accounts with far less knowledge and confidence and learning as they go, inside actual market conditions with their actual money. The financial industry, which was built by men for men, has not rushed to correct this belief in women. In fact, a 2024 study by BNY Mellon found that 86% of asset managers specifically target male customers. The message from the industry, implicit but powerful, is that investing is not quite for you. And that message has cost women enormously, because every year spent on the sidelines is a year of compound growth that cannot be recovered. Here is what the data actually shows when women invest: they outperform men. A study by Fidelity found that women's investment portfolios outperform men's by an average of 0.4 percentage points annually. Research from Warwick Business School found the gap even larger. The reason is not that women are smarter about individual stock selection. The reason is behavioral. Women tend to trade less frequently, panic sell less during market downturns, and stay the course through volatility better than men do on average. The very characteristics that have been used to frame women as timid or financially passive, the caution, the patience, the reluctance to chase hot trends, those behaviors applied to long-term wealth building turn out to be superpowers, not weaknesses, which means the biggest risk for women is not investing incorrectly. The biggest risk is not investing at all. The $100,000 milestone is exactly the moment when the identity shift can take root permanently. You stop being someone who is trying to save enough to eventually start investing seriously. You become someone who builds wealth. That is a fundamentally different identity. It comes with different habits, different standards for yourself, different questions you ask, and different conversations you're willing to have. It means you stop treating your investment portfolio as something you'll optimize when you have more time, more confidence, more clarity, and start treating it as the ongoing, non-negotiable engine it is. You are an investor now. That is not something that can be taken from you. Let me take a moment to speak directly to the women who are watching this and thinking, this is great, but I hit my first $100K in my 40s. Or I'm watching this at 50 and I'm just getting started. I don't have 30 years of compounding ahead of me. Does this still apply to me? I need you to hear me on this. It absolutely does. The math still works in your favor. It just looks a little different, and understanding the difference is what lets you optimize it. If you are 45 and you have $100,000 invested today, and you add nothing else, no additional contributions ever, and your portfolio earns the historical average of around 10% per year, you will have approximately $260,000 by the time you're 55. By age 65, that original $100,000 grows to roughly $673,000. That is without a single additional dollar contributed. Now add even modest ongoing contributions, say $500 a month over those 20 years, and you are looking at a portfolio closer to $1.3 million at retirement. What I want you to understand is that the first $100,000 invested at any age still does the math-defying work of compounding. You may not have the same timeline, but you still have enough runway to build a fundamentally different retirement than the one you'd have if you did nothing. And you still have more runway than you'll have a year from now. For women who took career breaks, who had years where caregiving came first, who came out of a divorce or a job loss with far less than they'd planned for, the same principle applies. The women I most admire in this community are not the ones who had the perfect trajectory, this straight, uninterrupted path from entry-level savings to six figures at exactly the age the financial plan assumed. They're the women who looked at what they had, decided to work with what was real instead of being paralyzed by what wasn't perfect, and made the math work from wherever they were. Starting over from $100,000 at 47 beats, waiting until 50 to have the perfect plan. Starting at 50 beats, starting at 55. There is no version of this where you had more time than you have right now. So let me bring this home, because I want you to leave this video with a clear and actionable picture of what comes after your first $100,000. Not the version they sell you on social media, the real version. The discipline that got you to $100,000 is still your most important tool. Don't let hitting the milestone make you think you've graduated from the behaviors that got you there. Keep automating. And keep investing consistently regardless of what the market is doing or what the news is saying. Keep living at or below your means even as your account grows and your income increases. The celebration trap, the social tax, the overconfidence trap. These are the three forces that will come looking for the energy you've built. Name them ahead of time. Recognize them when they show up. Make a plan before they arrive, because they will arrive. Here's what the actual path forward looks like in concrete terms. Maximize your tax advantage accounts first every year before you invest anything in a taxable brokerage account. In 2025, the 401k contribution limit is $23,500 if you're under 50 and $31,000 if you're 50 or older. The Roth IRA contribution limit is $7,000 for most people or $8,000 if you're 50 or older. These accounts are not just savings vehicles, they are tax shelters that allow your money to grow without being reduced by taxes every year, which over long periods makes an enormous difference to the final number. After those are maxed, continue into a regular taxable brokerage account focused on diversified, low-cost index funds. Your second $100,000 is coming faster than the first. After that, the third comes faster still. There will come a point, and this is the moment that changes everything. The one most of my community doesn't quite believe until they see it with their own eyes. When your investment returns in a single year exceed what you earned from working. When the money you have starts making more money than your actual job. That is the compound growth tipping point that Charlie Munger was pointing to. That is what all of this is building toward. And your first $100,000, the one you worked and sacrificed and chose again to build, is the seed that grows into that. But the seed only grows if you protect it. If you treat it like a launching pad instead of a finish line. If you stay invested when the market dips and the news is scary. If you stay consistent when the lifestyle upgrades are tempting. If you stay skeptical when the complex opportunity shows up looking like a shortcut. If you stay connected to the identity of someone who builds wealth, not someone who saved up once and then spent it down. The first $100,000 is not the prize. It is the proof. Proof that you have what it takes to do this. Proof that the math works. Proof that the woman who opened that screenshot on her phone in a parking garage somewhere, shaking a little and tearing up a lot, is capable of more than she was ever told. I'm so glad you're in this community. Hit that like button if this helped you see the path more clearly, and subscribe, because the truth about money told without the gatekeeping, without the assumptions, without leaving women out of the equation is what this channel is built on. I'll see you in the next one.